Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Brian Skowronski. This is Travis Berardi, and all these fabulous brackets just came out today. Everybody's in that wanted to be into the high school football playoffs this year for the first time ever, so we know who's playing who, what some of the future matchups might be, and me and Travis are going to chit-chat and discuss and kind of outline what some of our area teams here in North Central Ohio, and maybe even a little bit beyond our outskirts, what they're facing as they get ready for tournament time beginning next week, Travis. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and let's
get into this.
Let's get started here. We're going to begin Region 7 in Division 2. We have a couple of area teams here. Worcester would be the highest seed that we have. They got a bye. They're going to be the number 6 seed. Mount Vernon also in there. They're the number 16. And then Harding is the number 21 seed. So clearly I think the Generals, they got the best shot of anybody to get out of here. And as mentioned, they got the first round bye. They'll get the winner of Whitehall, Yearling, and Delaware, Olentangy, Berlin. After that, the top seed that they might see is the number 3 squad in Westerville South. So at least for me, what I like about their chances, and I think this is one of the best Worcester teams maybe in the history of the school, really, really talented team, they avoid the likes, at least for the first couple of rounds, of Maslin Perry, who was an absolute bear, man. They've got some really quality wins, including beating Jackson, and I believe also they knocked off Canton McKinley. And then they also get the chance to avoid Maslin Washington, at least early.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to face Maslin Washington until the regional semifinals. And the thing about this year is up until the regional semifinals, higher seed hosts. The only time you will go to a neutral site will be the regional final, state semifinal, and then the state championship, which I don't believe all these games will be in Canton. They might be different places. You might see a Division 7 state championship at Arlen Field. That's the pretty cool thing about the COVID for this year. I mean, it sucked for the most part, but you're going to see multiple state championship games spread across the state of Ohio, which it's a unique opportunity. But back to Division 2, Worcester, Olentangy, Berlin, they are in a tough area. Those Columbus schools, they've played 2 different Olentangy schools close, dropped a couple games, but that's going to be a tough game at Worcester. But I think Worcester, you know, like you said, they're one of the best Worcester squads we've ever seen. So I think they're able to squeak out of that. Westerville South, that's going to be a matchup down there in Westerville if both teams can get past their first round game.
And for Mount Vernon, they do get to play at home next Friday night. They're going to be taking on Canal Winchester. They're the 16 seed. Winchester is the 17 seed. But the winner of that game, they get the short end of the stick, and they get to go on the road to Maslin Perry, who, as mentioned, they may be the best team in the whole state in any division.
And Canal Winchester, they're a tough 1-4 squad. I mean, they played some tough Division 1 and 2 teams and played them close. I believe 2 or 3 of their losses were only by 7 points to teams that are 4-1 going into this weekend. So that's going to be a tough test for Mount Vernon, who, I mean, they played Lexington here, who's pretty low in Division 3, but it was only, 16-0 or 14-0, I believe. They got run over by Ashland. So this will be a tough first-round test, but the good thing is they're playing at home.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Division 3, Region 10, where we have lots of local schools right here in North Central Ohio. The top seed that we have here, Ashland, still undefeated. They are 5-0, and they are the number 2 seed. Let's go ahead and look at the very top of the bracket, though, where Tiffin Columbian is the number 1 overall seed, which...
And you got to see them play.
I did, and I'm actually a little bit surprised by that. Columbian, and matter of fact, I'm not really impressed by very many teams in this region. When you go from top to bottom, Columbian and their biggest game of the year, granted it was on the road against Bellevue, who still undefeated and is 5-0, but they didn't get it done. I imagine that they are going to move on and handle the winner of Norton and Sandusky, who still surprisingly hasn't won a game.
Yeah, Sandusky, I mean, they're usually year in and year out one of the favorites in that region. I mean, last year, them and Mansfield Senior came down to the wire.
For a regional championship.
So I mean, they lost a lot of people from last year. That might be something. But Columbian, most likely, they'll make it to a regional quarterfinal to take on either Revere or Medina Buckeye.
Something I found interesting too about Buckeye is that they're ranked number 1 on Joe Idle right now in terms of computer points, and they've only played a couple of games. So keep an eye on them, perhaps, as the number 9 seed. And then as you get moving farther down at number 4. Padua Franciscan, I mean, their only game that they played against a team with a winning record, they got whooped. So they don't really have any impressive wins. And then as you go down to the number 5 seed, Cloverleaf, same exact situation. They played Streetsboro, the only good team so far on their schedule, at least with a winning record, and they got beat by 21 points. And then Ashland, while they're 5-0, the combined record of the teams they've played is just 4-20. So this, I don't want to discount any of the teams. I'm not trying to say that these aren't good football teams. I think I'm just trying to say that this is wide open, man. Like,
yeah.
I don't really think that we know that there's a juggernaut in here. So maybe somebody that has to play an opening round game that doesn't have a bye could potentially be a sneaky out.
Well, let's see the 15-18 game at Arlen Field for next week. Mansfield Senior hosting Southview. If they can get past Southview, it's a rematch with Ashland, which was only a 2-score game at Ashland. Mansfield Senior, I mean, knowing them, I know head coach Choky Bradley is going to be out for a couple weeks, but his coaching staff can take care of this squad. And, I mean, they've already seen Ashland. They've already played them tough. So that might be something to watch in week 2. Like you said, for Cloverleaf, it's West Holmes playing Madison in that first round game. West Holmes, I mean, they're up and down. They had a marquee matchup with Worcester and just got run off the field. And then I believe, was it Madison they played the next week?
They beat them, but not very handily.
It was a 4-point game. Madison made a comeback. So this is a rematch now. And if Madison, you never know, maybe you'll see an upset out of that, or maybe West Holmes can just recover, see what happened, and take care of business to move on to the second round. But that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, sitting there at the number 7 seed. Norwalk's been coming on strong as of late. They started off the season 0-2. They're starting to get their act together. Bowling Green just got killed by Perrysburg just this last week after a 4-0 start, but they are the number 3 seed. They might probably have to face Bay Village, who was a playoff team last year that we saw come over to Arlen Field and get shut out. So a sneaky team that I think is coming out of the first round that will end up having to play Parma Heights' holy name.
River Valley.
Is River Valley.
I like that team.
I like that team. They got 4 wins. They're going to be at Shelby tomorrow night, and I think that's going to be like the true test game. Of course, Whippets are really, really good. If they are competitive in that game, or even if they win, which I predicted on Jake's first podcast that they just might go ahead and do over at Skiles Field, I think that they could be a sneaky, tough out. Like mentioned, I just don't know how high I am on any team in this region.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's wide open. Anybody, this is where if a team can get hot, if a team can get a big win this week. I know these games for week 6 don't really matter. Some do for conference championship purposes, but other than that, we don't. I mean, you never know. So if a team can get hot tomorrow night and then possibly have some momentum, you never know who can come out of this. Maybe a lower seeded team can make a run here, but like you said, it is wide open. I do see Tiffin making it at least to a regional semifinal. I think they're that good.
All right, let's go ahead and move out of Division 3, Region 10 here, and let's check out Region 14, this of Division 4, where, again, there's a lot of local teams in North Central Ohio, but the number 1 team up here, and I think rightfully so, I think they've earned it, the Bellevue Redmen. They are 5-0. They play in a really, really tough division up there in the Sandusky Bay League, so I like them as the top seed. Certainly probably going to get by the likes of either Galleon or Rocky River.
Yeah, Galleon's been down as of late. I mean, they had some suspensions. They just got by Clear Fork in a game that I called. Took double overtime for that to happen. Just a tough schedule for them. But Bellevue, yeah, they're ready for a run.
And then you see our whiteboard here, some of the top teams. I think Ontario is going to be an interesting squad now that they are into the postseason. And Kenton, they have a couple of wins over teams over 500, so that's why they have the 8th seed. And I think it's kind of a bummer for Ontario that they will have to go on the road. They just missed out of being that number 8 seed, where they potentially could have got the bye.
And I believe it was because Vermilion seeded them low. So it was one team. It might have not been Vermilion. Don't put that down from me. But one team did really underseed Ontario, and that's what cost them that 8 seed.
And for the Shelby Whippets, coming from the other side, the number 2 seed, they will get the winner between Rossford and Worcester Triway. So you would imagine that Shelby would have no problem there. Their first true test might come, and they do get to play at home all the way up until the regional championship, would be the 7 seed Napoleon. Huron is lurking also, the number 3 seed on the bottom of the bracket. They're probably going to have to tango with Wauseon to get to a game against the likes of Shelby. So, I mean, another region that's wide open, but it kind of seems that way when I look at a lot of these, Travis. Though I do feel like head and shoulders maybe above the rest. You would look at teams like Bellevue and Shelby, 2 old perennial rivals that you would just love. I mean, it would be great to see them meet in the postseason
once again. Yeah, in a regional championship. But there's one team that's interesting to me, just by the way they played last week against Pleasant, and that's Clear Fork. They're a 20 seed going up against a 13 seed Edison in that little bracket where Keystone is, where they have the bye. But the way Clear Fork was able to get that offense going again last week with Ted Rowe playing somewhat running back, somewhat quarterback, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. And if that defense can really pick things back up, maybe they can get a win or two in this bracket. Like you said, because it's so wide open other than Bellevue and Shelby.
Yeah, I think maybe Edison's probably 4-1 on the season. Actually, I think they're having a pretty good year, so I would imagine the Colts are going to be a big underdog, and rightfully so as the number 20 seed. They're just 1-4 on the season, so I don't know that I'm too high on the Colts, at least not like you are, to get through a couple of games. But hey, anything can happen in the playoff time, and especially when everybody gets in. So this is going to be a postseason unlike any other that we have ever been a part of. I cannot wait. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Region 18, Division 5. I don't know that we have too many local teams in there. I know the Winford Royals are looking. They got the number 7 seed. Marion Pleasant is not having a very good year. It's not your older brothers, Spartans team, so
No.
they're the number 18 seed. And then Willard, I haven't really checked in on them much this season. Have they won a game?
I don't think they have. And
I don't think so.
And what stinks for them is if they do get past the first round, they're going to have to take on Dustin Brady and the Winford Royals, who, probably going to be the number 2 team in the Northern 10, although they have a big game coming up tomorrow that I will be calling on the OH Report against the Blue Devils from Cary.
Ottawa Glandorf is still undefeated. They are the number 3 seed, which is a team that potentially could be running into Winford at some point. They would have to get through Northwestern, though, first. So those are a couple of intriguing games from some of the top seeds. I do definitely think that Winford would be the best bet out of our local area to make a run. The number 1 seed there is Liberty Benton. They're unbeaten.
Their rival of Winford used to be the first game of the season,
right.
but because of COVID, so it'd be pretty cool to see if those 2 teams meet up again, but that wouldn't be until a regional championship game.
Jeff would like to let me know that Ontario is hot, and hey, I'm not counting out the Warriors to do some damage, certainly in the postseason. I like them a lot, too. I feel like they've been coming on very strong as of late. I think they got the passing game. They got the weapons defensively.
Their defense has
tough.
really picked it up. I mean, they beat River Valley, who you're really high on as well. So
River Valley's only lost to this point.
Yes, it is, and it was a defensive play that really helped them win. It was a block punt. So Ontario, with those basketball players that they have coming out, Joe Baylog's boys coming out to play, that's the main key.
And I think that's what you got to do. If you really want to be a solid football program, you got to go recruit in the hallways. You got to get kids that have never played football before. That happened to me. I remember back in my high school days, the football coach came and had to talk to me at the end of my junior year, and I ended up going out for football, and we had a pretty awesome playoff season. But that was a long time ago, folks. So I'm glad that this new version of Ontario can make that happen.
I was the water boy.
I'm sure you did a great job, though.
No,
Travis.
but I was the water boy. But because our numbers got down, they brought me on. So I was kind of like the real man's Bobby Boucher, but I really wasn't as good as the movie.
You didn't
I was
take
on
them
the
to
offensive line. No, we went 0-10.
All right, how about Region 21? Who we got looking in here, Travis?
We got Hillsdale
Just
at number
Hillsdale?
12. Yeah, just Hillsdale at 12 there. They're playing Campbell Memorial at Hillsdale. The winner would play, I have no idea what that name is.
Andover,
Pymatunning.
Pymatunning Valley, the number 5 seed. All right, so we won't spend too much time on this. I am not familiar with that team. But I do know that Hillsdale, when they have gotten into the playoffs the last several years, they've at least won their first round game.
Yep.
And a couple of occasions, they've won 2 games. So I'm a big fan of the Falcons. I know that when they get into postseason action, that they make it happen. So look for them as the number 12 seed to certainly win at home and then have a real good shot against Punt-Numping Valley.
Hey, they're in the,
I'm going to research that. I'm going to find out on the map where that's at.
they're in a tough Wayne County Athletic League, and that gets them ready for the postseason. I mean,
They get tested.
yeah, they get tested, and this is the perfect year for it because that league is even more stacked than usual. So with everybody coming into the playoffs, that's why they got a 12 seed, even though I believe they only have 1 or 2 wins.
All right, let's move on to Division 6, Region 22, where we have a lot more local teams. It's at least stacked with some squads that we know, including Colonel Crawford, who is the number 2 overall seed. They're going to cap off their regular season undefeated with their first ever Northern 10 championship. So congratulations to the Eagles for that accomplishment. They get a first-round bye. Cary is the number 8 seed. They're going to have to take on Montpelier, who is number 25. They get to play at home, though. And then Crestview taking on Evergreen. That's a team that I really like. The Cougars are coming on strong. I just said on the podcast earlier this week that I feel like Ross Kuhn is the player of the year so far in the area. I believe he's got 15 touchdown passes, just the 1 INT. He's over 1,000 yards.
And 12 to Hamilton.
Lots of them to Evan Hamilton, so he's got the weapon on the perimeter to really make that thing cook. Evan's having a sensational season. They have a great defensive front, too. I like them at every level on both sides of the football. So Crestview, I think, to me, is a team that potentially can make a lot of noise here in the postseason, and they will get probably, maybe, 2 games at home. Actually, probably not. They're probably going to have to go on the road at Cary in week 2, aren't they?
Yeah, Cary, and that's a team that I will see tomorrow night playing Winford. They played each other the past few seasons as their non-conference, and it's been decently close, but this Crestview team, one of the best, so I think they'll travel to Archbold on October 24th. I feel bad for Seneca East, because if they win, they get a rematch with Colonel Crawford, and Colonel Crawford pretty much handled them the last time they met a couple weeks ago.
Fairview from Sherwood is the number 3 seed in this region. Northwood is the number 6. They are coming from the bottom of the bracket.
I believe that's Andy Jardy's alma mater is Northwood.
Oh, good for them. I know that they went 10-0 last year and did not get into the postseason. So congratulations getting in this year, guys. We'll see how far you can make it. I think Colonel Crawford, I mean, man, this is probably their best team that they've ever had, period, in the history of the school. They got weapons pretty much everywhere. They have 2 stud running backs. I like the quarterback. I believe they just had a player declared ineligible for really stupid reasons. Unfortunately for him, I don't want to go too far into that. So I think that sucks. That's a big loss for them. However, this is a team that's been clicking. They've been tested. They beat some big teams. And the fact that they got that Winford monkey off their back, I think the confidence that breeds into them probably propels them through the first couple of rounds. So look for Colonel Crawford to be at least in the regional semifinals, in my opinion.
I think, too. I think they have a really good path. The only team that I think may give them a test is Liberty Center, and that's in the quarterfinal. We have Western Reserve on that side of the bracket. They're the team that once again knocked off St. Paul, but I've seen them play. I mean, Mapleton took them in the double overtime. They're like a hot up-and-down type team. So, yeah, I think Crawford has the chance to make it to a regional semifinal, where then they would have to face either Northwood or Fairview. So Crawford could be a special season for them.
Yeah, and then in Region 23, also in Division 6, Centerburg, who not necessarily is a local team. I don't know that we feature them here on OH Report at any time this season, but they're the number 2 seed out there. Their East Knox's only loss, and of course we have a ton of Bulldogs on here. It took them double overtime, though, to knock off the Bulldogs. So that would be a team certainly to keep an eye on. Fort Fry is the number 1 seed in that region.
Back in the Ohio Valley, where I come from, yeah, they've been a tough squad as the last couple years. Mount Gilead on that top side. They'll take on Buckeye Trail from back in the Ohio Valley. They have to take the drive to. That's about a 2-hour drive out for them. So Fort Fry, I believe. Belfry already moved on because of, I think, Newcomerstown had a COVID case. So they can't play. So there's already one team playing Fort Fry. But Mount Gilead in that bracket, that's going to be a tough game for them. Down at the bottom, Centerburg will play the winner of Northmore and Loudonville. That should be a really good matchup to start off the playoffs. And right above them, Fredericktown traveling to Marion Elgin, with the winner going back to the Ohio Valley to face Barnesville, a tough Division 6 squad. They used to be Division 5. They just moved up either this year or last year.
All right, so that is Region 23. On Region 25, I mean, we've got a couple of teams that we keep an eye on. On our featured game tomorrow, our main broadcast, Norwalk St. Paul, who's going to be trying to knock off Monroeville, live and free right here on the OH Report. They are the number 8 seed. They have Salineville Southern in their opening round matchup, the number 9. So the 8-9 matchup, I do think that's pretty cool that they start off with that one, and that's a couple of weeks down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both teams have a bye.
Technically a first-round bye.
Well, I mean, Warren JFK at the top of this bracket, but this is the Lucas Cubs bracket as well, and with the schedule that Lucas has played, I mean, they dropped a game to Shelby, which is the number 2 seed. Really a close number 2 seed to Bellevue, and they dropped that by 30, but they beat the likes of Ontario. They beat the likes of Clear Fork and Marion Pleasant. And Troy Christian, I think, is the only team that they played in Division 7 out of that. But Warren JFK, number 1 seed, gets the winner of Lowellville and Youngstown Valley Christian. Then, like you said, St. Paul and Southern will go on. They both have the bye. And then a little bit further down, Dalton will play the winner of Plymouth and Lisbon David Anderson. Yeah. Plymouth, I mean, the Big Red, a tough loss to St. Paul, and they dropped.
Well, they got beat pretty bad by St. Paul this last week. They played Monroeville pretty tight on the road a couple of weeks ago. So this is an improved Plymouth team, but I think even they know they're probably about a year away from really being competitive in the postseason. But you like them at least at home to get by. We'll see how they do with the Bulldogs going on the road. And then as you get down lower and you see the Lucas Cubs are hanging out there, and their helmet a little bit bigger on our graphic because shout out Scott Spittler for making this. We stole it from his Twitter account, so thanks, Scott, for helping us do some of the work here. They will get the winner between Cuyahoga Heights and Mapleton. And just, I think that Lucas, the fact that they've played this MOAC schedule, and typically every single year, Lucas really challenges themselves. They've gone on the road every single week. I don't know how many teams in the entire state of Ohio can say that they have played 6 away games. The Cubs are going to be so battle-tested when they finally get a play at Bob Wine against a team that is their size. I imagine that the Lucas Cubs are going to steamroll their first-round opponent. I really do. I think the Cubs are probably going to steamroll their second-round opponent too, which we had an opportunity to go over to Monroeville yesterday, and we got to talk to their coaching staff and a couple of the players. And the one thing that their head coach said was, I put in a memo, the only thing I want to do is avoid the Lucas Cubs. I don't care who else is out there. I don't care who we have to play. I just want to try to avoid the Cubs. I feel really bad for the Eagles that if they win one game, their second round, they already have to face
And they
Lucas.
just barely missed out on, I believe, the 6th seed, which would have dropped them down to where McDonald is, and that would have been a, they'd make it through until the semifinal when they'd have to face Lucas. But Monroeville, they'll take on Independence. They do get a home game at the Marsh, and they get a bye as well. They're one of those 2 double bye games. So Monroeville, after their big one with St. Paul tomorrow night, which is for the Fireland Conference Championship, they'll get a week off. And just a reminder, that's our game of the week. So we will be live and free on the OH Report Facebook and YouTube. Our number 1 team, Bruce Wyrick and Brian Harder, will be on that call. Cannot wait. We were up there yesterday, like you said. That field that's a fun place.
It's a cool facility, and I like Monroeville, to be perfectly honest. I know that they don't want to play the Lucas Cubs, and I would pick the Cubs in that matchup if they go toe-to-toe. But, man, do they have some big kids on the interior. I like their quarterback's got nice size. A lot of senior leadership. I think I counted a dozen seniors on that team for Division 7. That's pretty special. And I like that matchup. I'm looking forward to Monroeville coming over to Bob Wine Field and taking on the Lucas Cubs. I can guarantee you the OH Report will be there for live coverage of that game.
And then just one more squad that's in this down towards the bottom of the bracket. That's Buckeye Central. They'll take on Wellsville at Wellsville. That's another 2-hour drive. This is a tough bracket, this one and the last one we saw, because it's mixed with the Ohio Valley teams, those bordering schools with West Virginia and North Central Ohio, just because they had to redo the regions, but they'll have to travel to Wellsville. Buckeye Central, they did break their long losing streak when they beat Bucyrus, but it's going to be a really tough one for them to be in when they travel to Wellsville.
Hey, my man Scott is excited for Mapleton, so we're looking forward to the Mounties getting into the postseason. We don't want to discount them. Who knows?
Hey, we may see them at Lucas. We may see them at Lucas if they can knock off Cuyahoga Heights. You know,
And that's
that
a young Mounties team. I seen them in week 1 against Crestview where they were a bit overmatched, but I know, again, like I said, that they got some young kids that are on the team. They're probably developing to this point. They had a couple of freshmen that were already in there in week 1 getting some key minutes, so maybe the Mounties will be a tough out. So thanks for the shout-out, Scott. The rest of Division 7, I know that in Region 26, number 9 Mohawk is in there. Ridgedale not having a good season. I think they're 0-for, so certainly I would say the Mohawk would be the team that would have the best shot out of those two. And then I don't know what region East Knox is in.
East Knox is in Region 27, Division 7, the left corner of the. Do you like my writing?
Oh,
At least
I do.
It's legible.
Yeah, I love the big whiteboard. We're so professional here on the OH Report tonight.
Hey, we did 2 volleyball games. Got back. I'm like, I'm gonna put this up on the board at least. You know, kind of like John Madden-esque. You know, but Region 27, Division 7. There we go. East Knox. They are the number 2 seed in this. Danville as well, the number 4 seed. We got to see both those squads, and you will see them tomorrow night.
That's right, the Devil Dog Showdown going down in beautiful Howard, Ohio. I cannot wait for that, so of course we'll have that live stream for you, and man, are people fired up about this game. I tell you what, of every game that I have been preparing for this season to get to on a Friday night, this is the one that I think that I have had the most excitement generated for in terms of hearing from the fans about, hey, are you guys going to do this game? Are you guys going to do this game? Yes, we are. We will have the Bulldogs at home.
Also, earlier we had a question, hey, where's Cardington? Well, Cardington, you're here in Division 7, Region 27. You guys take on Fisher Catholic at Cardington. You're the 13 seed. You take on the 20 seed. You win. You get that game against Danville, and I believe they played already this year. Cardington, a team that knocked off Northmore by a touchdown.
That's right.
Danville beat Northmore by 2 points, so, you know, that would be a tough one. I believe Danville did beat Cardington.
Yes, they did.
But, you know, rematch always. So there's a cool second game in the playoffs, Danville, Cardington, Lincoln. And then you got East Knox. And this is a cool thing for me because Tusky Central, Toronto, the winner of that will play at East Knox. And then down on the other side of the bracket, number 7 seed Shady Side, the Tigers. I played against the Tigers back in high school. They had a legendary coach, Ty Fleming, took them to a couple state championship games. They just got new turf down there in Shady Side this year. When I went back home, I saw that. But so Shady Side at East Knox in the regional quarterfinal. I called dibs on that one because I'd like to call that. But Shady Side, a real tough team. That would be a great game to watch down the line. And that would be all the teams we have in Region 27, and that's the last one.
And a couple of teams that aren't that much better than high school teams. The Broncos and the Jets just finished up, if you care. 37-28 Denver, getting their first win of the season. So there's a last update for you guys. So that's our makeshift bracket look at. So thank you guys for dealing with our whiteboard and our stolen brackets from Scott Spittler and company from the interwebs. And we appreciate y'all watching. We're looking forward to playoff time next week. This truly is one of the most excited times that I've ever had in my whole life in terms of getting ready for playoffs because everyone's in, man. Like,
you know, and you never know what could happen.
You don't know what's going to happen.
You only have 5 weeks worth of games, teams playing against tougher opponents now because everybody's in. So you really don't know how good these teams are when they go up against their own competition.
Fair point. All right, that's going to do it for me and Travis. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow night. We will have 4 live streams for you folks. Looking forward to all of those. As mentioned, I will be at East Knox. They're taking on Danville. Travis will have the Winford versus Cary game. We will have the game of the night. Our feature broadcast with Brian Harder and Bruce Wyrick will be up at Marsh Field. That being Monroeville taking on St. Paul for the Firelands Conference Championship. And then right here in our own backyard at Arlen Field, we will have Andy Jardy and Effie James on the call for the TY Tigers, looking for their second win of the season when they take on the Mount Vernon Jackets. So long for tonight. We will see y'all again tomorrow.
Bye, guys.